What's up, world? We are in Mason Park once again with this beautiful motorcycle. This is the Husqvarna 401 Vitpillen. This is a long name, I understand. The first time I saw one of these bikes, I thought, is this a Chinese motorcycle trying to get into the US market? But no, this is not a Chinese motorcycle. This is a Swedish brand, and they have been known for making really durable and good power tools, sewing machines, and off-road motorcycles. So is this new? Not completely. Underneath the shell, this is a KTM Duke 390. We will get into that a little more further down. So there are two types of these motorcycles. There is the Vitpillen and there is the Svartpillen. I hope I'm pronouncing these right. It says Vitpillen on this bike 7 times, 4 times on the wheels and then 3 times throughout the motorcycle. So that must be important, right? Yes, it is. The steering handlebar on the Vitpillen is a little lower, mainly for looks, and it has the street tires. The other type of the motorcycle, which is called the Svartpillen, I don't know why these names are so hard, I can barely say this, has different tires, more knobby tires, and the steering wheel is a little higher. So this bike is trying to be a cafe racer. What does that mean? I don't know exactly, but I know that this bike looks like a cafe racer. That's as far as I can go. The other one is trying to be more functional, more off-roady, and I think with the higher handlebar, it's going to be a little more comfortable to ride. One thing to note is that the clearance is pretty low. You don't have much of clearance underneath the bike, so don't take that off-road thing too seriously, okay? This bike currently comes with only one engine size, the 401. The 401 indicates that this is a 390cc engine, make about 45 horsepower. They used to make a 701 version of this that was making about 75 horsepower, but they stopped that in 2020. Why? I have no idea. The rumor says that they're working on a 901 version, which is going to have more than 100 horsepower. I don't know if that's gonna happen. I don't know when it's gonna happen, but that bike is going to be a killer because this bike looks really nice, but it's not that big of a performer. Now, don't get me wrong. This is not a weak motorcycle. I came to this bike basically waiting for a disappointment. I thought it's gonna be a small engine. It's not gonna have enough horsepower. On the highway, it's gonna be a dog. That wasn't the case. This engine works very well on the highway. I'll get more into that in a bit. So let's talk about the looks. This bike is based on a KTM Duke 390. I never liked KTMs. I think they look ugly. They are too orange for no reason. But I think this is a much better approach. This bike looks like a modern urban motorcycle. I enjoy looking at this bike. It's very well proportioned. It's not that big. It's not too small. And the lines that they have from the seat to the tank, the lines go really well together. So I think whoever designed this bike did a great job. Now, this particular motorcycle has a few accessories that were added to it later. Let's go over them. This thing, I know it looks ugly. Please disregard it. You don't need to have one on your bike, but it helps a lot. The mirrors are normally here. They look kind of ugly. They take away from the looks of the bike. So this is a good choice. These mirrors are a little small. They are not that functional, but they get the job done. In the back, we have a rack, so you can put more stuff. You have an extra tank if you want to extend your range. I personally wouldn't have these things on my bike. I think this bike looks really nice if you get those things off of it, but the back is a little shorter than normal, so that makes the bike look different. That's great. Again, if this was my bike, I would take this part away also. And if we look at the other side of the bike, I would put a smaller slip-on exhaust, just to give this bike a more minimalistic, more urban look. Wait for this fucking John Deere guy to get the fuck away from here.
One eternity later.
Okay, that should be enough on the looks. How does the bike ride? So I came in from the world of super sport motorcycles. I thought this bike is not gonna perform well. I thought it's gonna be slow. I thought it's gonna be underpowered, and on the highway, it's gonna be really buzzy.
Six months later.
But to my surprise, the bike feels really good on the highway. In the city, it's good. We all know that. This is made for the city. But on the highway is where I was worried about it. It performed really well. It has enough power to get itself to 100 miles an hour. That's with me riding. But if you want to keep a constant speed, if you want to do 70 miles, 65, 80, whatever, it can do it. And it feels responsive. If you want to pass, if you want to do something, this is not an unsafe bike. You can ride this bike on the highway for sure. And that's mainly because of the smooth yet powerful engine that the bike has. Now, the transmission is a different story. The transmission is really good in some parts and really bad in other parts. I'm gonna go over it.
Lord have mercy. We must stay focused, brother.
Thousands of tears later.
The transmission works really well for the most part. The thing that I was impressed with the most about this bike is the quick shifter. This bike has quick shifter on upshifts and quick shifter on downshifts. This is the first time I experienced this. And on city settings, when you want to ride from one red light to the other, if you don't have to go through 6 clutches for upshifting and then 6 clutches for downshifting, it's gonna make your riding so much easier. And that helps a lot. I was very impressed with that feature. This was the first time I experienced that on a bike, and I think every bike needs that. Now, the part that I didn't like about the transmission is 2 things. One, the link here, the effort is pretty high. If you want to go from first to second to third to fourth, it can leave a mark on your shoes down here, and it can hurt your feet a little bit. That's one thing. You will get used to that. The second part that I didn't like is that when you come to a stop and you want to put the bike in neutral, sometimes it takes 2, 3, 4, 5 efforts. Meaning, you're in the first gear, you want to go to the neutral, you push it up a little bit, bam, you're in second gear. You push it down a little bit, bam, you're in first gear. So getting to the neutral sometimes is not easy. Sometimes it straight feels impossible and you have to just give up on it. So it feels like I'm nitpicking, but that's something that you're gonna go through a lot and it can become annoying after a while. I'm hoping that's a problem with this specific bike and not all Husqvarnas, but who knows, right? So I think that's enough talking. Let's take a bike for a ride and see how it goes. Quick note before we get going, I rented this bike from Riders Share website. You can rent and enjoy all kinds of cool motorcycles there, and with the link below, you will get $25 off your first ride. Now back to the video. So the ride height is a little higher than I expected. I am 5'10", and I can have both feet down. They're not gonna touch the ground completely, but you can see how I am. It's pretty comfortable. Oh, and on that note, a quick disclaimer about the comment I had on the highway. I am not that big of a guy. I am 5'10" and 160 pounds of pure muscle. So if you're bigger, maybe the highway performance won't be as good. With that said, this bike is stock. If you put a performance exhaust on it, performance intake, a light tune, I think you will be just fine. All right, the bike is on. It doesn't sound that interesting, but it doesn't have to, right? You see that? What is this? Is this neutral? Yes, it is neutral, but it doesn't say neutral. 1, 2. I'm trying to go to the neutral to show you that issue that I said. Again, 1. I'm doing it so smoothly. Please go to neutral. Oh no. This happens every red light. Can we go to neutral? Okay, we're in neutral now. But let's go.
Alright, so let's talk about ride and handling characteristics of this motorcycle. In city settings, in low speed, the bike feels almost perfect. The ride is really comfortable, the handling is really good, the bike feels nimble and confident. It can definitely get the job done. And the bike is not that wide, so if you want to split lanes, it's a good motorcycle for that. So combined with easy to use and responsive accelerator and brakes, this bike is a great city dweller. And with the art of short gearing, you can even call it fast. Here is a wide open throttle acceleration. Let's take a look. Pretty impressive if you ask me. The quick shifter does its job flawlessly. Best feature of this motorcycle for sure. During higher speeds, you get a little more vibration from the suspension, and the engine feels buzzy, but both of those issues are at a manageable level, and the bike still feels comfortable. If you do a lot of high speed riding, there are 2 issues with this bike that you need to note. 1, there is no windshield. So all the wind in front of you is coming to your chest. Is that bad? Can you handle it? That depends on you. Number 2 issue of the bike is the range. The tank is pretty small, and even though it gets pretty good gas mileage, the range is not going to be that high. With this bike, with a full tank, you get about 120 miles of range. Is that enough for you? I don't know. You be the judge. As a conclusion, I have to say that this is a great motorcycle. If you're looking for your first bike, or if you're looking for something that is easy to ride, this is the bike for you. Especially when we factor in the great reliability that these motorcycles are known for. I tried to do a bit of research to find the known problems of these bikes, and I couldn't find much. All mechanics say these are really reliable and well-built motorcycles. There are versions of these motorcycles with high mileage running around, not giving their owners issue. So if you're thinking about getting one of these, I say go for it. Thank you for watching, and ride safe.